Welcome to Couples Becoming Intentional. I'm Carrie.
I am John.
And here at Couples Becoming Intentional, we want to equip you with different tools and resources so that you can live intentional lives with those that you love to leave a legacy that lasts. Welcome to this week's episode of Couples Becoming Intentional. This topic we're going to be diving into is probably one of the most important things that I feel like, this might be a little dramatic, that has saved our marriage in the last 6 years.
I mean, it helps. I think it's it's part of emotional intelligence and also part of just knowing who God created you to be so that you know what your perspective is.
Yes. So that is exactly what we are going to be talking about today. We are diving into the different tools that we've used throughout 7 years of being together and how we have seen them really impact our marriage. And from the beginning of time, that's not where I'm wanting to go with this. From the
beginning of time.
From the beginning of us getting together, we have changed our time. That's the only time that matters. I know that's
your perspective.
Here we go. So the biggest thing that I have noticed, like with us, is that we are definitely not the same people that we were.
What?
Shocker.
Or we're definitely not the same people.
What?
You and I are not the same.
Oh, yes. You and I are not the same. That is correct. So with that, I think the biggest thing that we've learned through this is to dive into who has God wired each of us individually to be, and how can that be a strength for our marriage. So playing into each other's strengths and each other's opportunities to be able to bring about some really great things in our marriage. And John, when do you feel like in our time together that this really jump started?
I think right around when we had Finn, we realized that like we can't just cohabitate together and work together. It's like, there are expectations that each of us have when coming from work, and then Carrie being home with Finn. And I think it was just never communicated, and I wanted to just do tasks, and you're like, why don't you just be here with the family? We missed you. You've been gone all day. And I'm like, the house is a mess. I need to clean it. And so just realizing that I was in stress at that point in time of just constantly trying to do all the tasks when I'm actually just a very relational person, and my job didn't give me relation. I think it was 4-ish years now.
I completely agree that when Finn was born, I feel like our worlds got rocked.
Yes, for sure.
And we've talked about this in previous episodes about how Finn was not expected in our lives. He has been a biggest blessing in our lives and
unexpected happiness.
Oh yes, that is the term we used throughout our entire pregnancy.
That's what Schwaffnagel.
Oh yes, my doctor told us.
Dr.
I was like,
Waffle.
this wasn't planned, and she goes, unexpected happiness, because she has 5 kids, so it makes sense. And when he was born, we realized that everything that we had been doing up until that point needed to change. And if we kept going down this road of just kind of being roommates for this point and just kind of doing the day-to-day to get by, and in actuality, we started to be intentional with just who we are and what we are about. So I know you have it pulled up on your phone right now, but one of the first ways I feel like that we actually started to be intentional about this was we took strength finders. Gallup.
I think DISC was first.
DISC was first?
Yes, because I'm thinking back to Mary Kay.
Mm-hmm.
They were very big into this. I think also Mary Kay had a huge pivotal movement in our lives of just realizing, you can be successful and you can know how God created you so that you can better run your business.
Yes.
And it's just like, why don't take that principle and bring it to like everything in our lives? Like if you can have joy, you can have all this like gifts of the Spirit, right? Mm-hmm. And you can, by knowing like who God created you to. So like DISC was, I think we've talked about.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's been released though.
Anyway, DISC is a personality trait that are 4 different categories that you can essentially be in.
Right. And so I think that was like, oh, okay, I tend to be more, then I was more of a task oriented because of my job. And Carrie was more relational. And Carrie was, because you tested as an I first.
I don't really remember what I tested first as, but they have DISC, so spelling out disc. You have your dominant and then personalities. If you've ever taken like the animal test with this, the 4 different animals, this would be the lion.
Yes.
The next one is I, which would be the otter. Otters are the best. Can we just be real? Otters are the best at the zoo. And you're happy, influential, always outgoing. They probably have woo in their top 5 strength. They're just always happy. And then it's S, which are your golden retrievers, which are the fun little puppies who are always loving and relational.
Very steady.
Yes. Steady, secure. And then C is more of your beaver.
The beaver.
Analytical.
The workhorse, essentially, of the disc. And the disc is not like, it tests your behaviors.
Yes.
And so like you can change. So like when we first did it, we did the animal one back in 2015 for Lake Lundgren.
Yep.
I was a golden retriever beaver.
And I was a golden retriever otter.
So yeah, the SI, and I was a SC.
Yes.
And so then, but like eventually we kind of figured out who we were more at our core of who we actually are, who God created us to be, or who our God-given selves rather than our true selves, because that's so new agey.
Yes, it is.
Now it's more of I'm more of a SI, and Carrie determined that she was an SC, which is like we flipped roles apparently.
Oh, we absolutely did. That is absolutely true. So going from disc, this was like, okay, this is a basic understanding of this is who I'm wired, or like this is kind of what my behaviors are in alignment with. But before I jump into the next one, which you have up on your phone, I want to just preface with this big thing. I know a lot of people are like, this type of assessment puts you in a box. And I beg to differ. And as we talk about some other ones in the future that have really made a big impact on our life, this gives you the box and a way to get out of it.
Right. And like we'll talk about Enneagram later on. Yes, it can put you in a box if you choose to stay in that box.
Correct.
Because like not only does Enneagram tell you like where you're at and your greatest flaw, it also teaches you how to move beyond your box and to become more like you. And like they'll say like, so we were a big Enneagram coach who were like gospel centered Enneagram people. We haven't really listened to them in a while, but we really enjoyed it because like it gave you a tool to like look at your deepest, darkest self and say like, that is not who God wants me to be. And in order to be more like Christ, I need to grow in this exact way. And another thing that they would say is that, yes, there are 9 basic types, but there are different shades of blue. There are different shades of purple. And like, not every type 9 is going to look this exactly the same.
That's right. And we'll jump to Enneagram in just a little bit. The other one that we have really enjoyed is called Gallup Strength Finders. Is it strengths with an S? Or I can't even remember. This gives you your top 25 strengths. So you take an assessment. And what they've said about this specific assessment is that it does not change pretty much throughout your lifetime.
Yes.
Where when you take it once, maybe some of your top 10 might shift around a little bit, but beyond that, it does not. Is that mine?
Yeah.
How did you?
I saved it.
Oh, wow. Okay, here we go. So I have my top 10 unlocked. You can take the assessment at a reduced cost if you just want your top 5.
Yes, that's what I did.
Yes, that's what we did originally. And then for work, my full thing got unlocked because we have a really incredible Strength Finders coach at our church. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And this was one of our big focuses when I was in network marketing, of using this specifically to tap into how can you do business in alignment with your strengths, not doing it the way that everyone else in the industry is telling you to do it, but really tapping into who you are to the core. And when I look at mine, I see a lot of people.
Yes.
Is that what it's based off of different colors? So I see a lot of people. I have empathy, belief, includer, developer, and futuristic, where if I look at like who I am to the core, that is me. Like I definitely want people to feel included, feel like they're valued, but I don't want them to just stay put. Like I want them to become the best of who God has given them. All the while, I'm going to walk alongside you through all that whole season of like really developing you into that, because I see it. And that's where like that futuristic comes in. Like I see a future for you. I see like, it's just this weird thing that I have about me where it just all makes sense to me. And I'm able to put pieces together that I use that in my business all the time. So that's really where it came down to for me, for that, of just this awareness of I needed to find a career. I needed to find people that I could truly mentor and raise up and be in their life for a really long time. And this specific test has really just shown me what kind of position or what kind of occupation that I should be doing for the rest of my life.
Right. When like last year I was with senior guys for youth group, and I like highly suggested that they take this, because if you have your top 5, I suggest just getting your top 5. If you have your top 5, find a career that will hit a majority of those.
Yes.
Because if you're picking 1 or 2 out, you're going to be dissatisfied. You're going to be only growing in 1 or 2 of your strengths. Or not strengths. What is it called? It's
their strengths and the attributes and the qualities.
The qualities, because like they can be strengths, but if you're not
Yes.
strengthening them, they
stay dormant. So, and then the other thing is when you look at your weaknesses, it could be a strength overcompensated.
Yes.
So can be very, very emotional. And that's
empathy.
Because of my empathy.
Or you take on other people's emotions.
Oh, that's really what it is.
Yes.
I have to put up my physical, using my kinesthetics to put up my X in front of me of that is not mine to handle. That is not my problem to solve. And I even see my futuristic getting a hold of me where I don't focus on now.
Yes.
I
you
only
get
am
caught up in the future.
Correct.
And also because of futuristic, like you have higher anxiety because you can see down the road, where like I have no anxiety, but I also don't live in the future. I live in the past.
Yes. That's where the depression comes in.
Yeah.
Sadness.
Melancholy.
I was going to say, I'm like,
I'm not depressed.
I don't like the word anxiety. I get nervous.
Yeah.
And this is where this is a big, the willies.
Yeah. It's from New Girl.
Oh, okay.
You're having an anxiety attack. No, it's just the willies.
Whatever you want to call it. For me, this is why I'm always prepared for many, many, many different case scenarios. And it's actually, to me, I think my futuristic has really played out when we're packing for vacations, because I'm foreseeing all these different situations that could happen and being prepared for them. That is how my nervousness manifests in itself. You may call that high functioning anxiety.
I think
that's what
counselors would.
I think they would too.
So my top 5.
Yes.
Which I found that you had 2 of these in your top 10.
10. Okay.
Which is like, oh, okay. I didn't realize this. So I have harmony, relator, intellection, analytical, and restorative. And so
How do you see those all 5 playing out?
So I'm going to go back to when I was in college. I decided that I wanted to be an engineer because I love math and science, which was hitting on 2 of my strengths,
right?
The intellection and the analytical. And I was not like dealing with people with like the harmonization of people groups, and then also the relator and the restorative. And I think like as a pastor, I can easily hit all 5 of these.
That's true.
Because I love theology, which is going to be the intellection, the analytical. And then as a counselor, as a developer of people, or even in marriages, I can create harmony. I can relate with both sides of the argument. I can, and then restore them to a peace, to harmony.
There you go.
To
restore
harmony.
them to harmony. You love that word.
Yes. Right. I mean, we can only gain harmony in any aspect of our life. Like the buzzword, right, is like to say, well, like, we need balance, of a work-life balance. It's like, no, the reality is that like ideally you work 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. Ideally you would get 8 hours of sleep every single night. Then ideally you would have 8 hours left for whatever your life is doing. I don't know anybody who's getting exactly 8 hours of sleep, works exactly 8 hours each day, and then therefore has 8 hours for life. Like that doesn't, like that's not balanced. That would be a balanced life, and that's not the reality of anybody's life. Kudos to you if you have 8 hours, 8 hours, and 8 hours.
So the reality is, how can you live your life in harmony where some seasons of things get more attention than other seasons of things, or certain periods of time get this specific focus, and finding a way that makes most sense to you and your family rather than...
Right. Kind of went down the rabbit trail on that one.
That's okay. Okay. So the next one that has been the next personality assessment that has been extremely supportive for us is the Enneagram. And please, if you have a personal conviction against the Enneagram, you can just turn us off right now. That is totally okay. Or skip ahead. We want to be super respectful that this is not a conviction for us. This has actually been probably, out of all the ones that we've listed, the most transformational thing for John and I. So much so that we've gotten some of our really good friends to understand how they're wired, and just being able to really love people well. And I think that's what this really comes back to, is this isn't look at us, we're so high and mighty and I know myself best and all these different things so I can achieve things. Like, no, this is so we can become more like Jesus and become in our own way, and so we can love others the way that Jesus wanted others to be loved.
Right. And like it developed a guardrails of like, for me, like I just want to constantly disengage, right? And so like if I'm finding myself like turning to my phone or turning to things that are good but not always best, or like turning to things that are just trying to turn off my brain or just to get me away from the chaos of this world, I can realize like, oh, I'm approaching this way. And like, rather than shaming myself of like, oh shoot, I'm such a sinner, I constantly want to be numbed away from the pains of this world. No, I can like realize, okay, there's something going on in my life right now, and it's causing me to want to numb out from what's going on. So then I can analyze my life of like, okay, what is causing me this stress? And then I can say, okay, well, it's this. And then I can say, okay, how can I best mitigate that? Mitigate, not medicate. We want to mitigate that. And then also like, how can I either accomplish whatever is overhead, or like, how can I change it so that it's no longer trying to make me become my less healthy self?
My biggest realization through the Enneagram, so I am a type 2 with, I like to say I have balanced 1 and 3 wings, but one tends to lean one way or the other, depending on where I'm at and what I'm doing.
You're a lot like a 3 when you're working.
I really am. But when I'm like home or packing or organizing or like with the kids, my 1 starts to creep up a little bit of like,
yes, this
is not right. And that's really like where my mindset is like, what is the right thing to do in this? Yeah. So the core of a type 2 is, for me, this is my words, is everyone else comes before me. And my needs don't matter. I felt like I had to prove myself in a way. That's where a lot of my type 3-ness comes in, of the achiever. And I think my biggest realization through it is asking for help and asking for things that I want and actually speaking up. I've been doing a lot of study of this as I'm working in more of a male dominated industry, working with pastors in our church. So learning how can I best use my voice and speak up, and I'm not a burden, and I can ask for things that I need, and asking for assistance and support is okay. And it's good. It's actually a good thing. And taking care of myself to make sure I'm being fed and I'm not just accommodating to everybody else's needs has been probably one of the biggest things in our marriage. And I think I just remember when we like look back of how I just wanted to take care of you, like in the beginning of our marriage, because I wanted that so bad. And John and I are rewatching New Girl right now, and we just giggle about how Jessica Day just wants to take care of everybody. And she didn't want to date the hoity-toity rich guy because he had everything figured out and she couldn't take care of him. Like, I feel that deeply.
Right.
John and I have grown a lot in this area because John now takes care of me, and I welcome it and I want it. And to me, before that, I always felt selfish. Like I always felt so incredibly selfish to ask for things that I want. And that is not the way that I want to continue or model for even our kids. That if there is something that you want or desiring, or you feel like God's leading you in that direction, to one, go for it, and two, who's going to be there along the way to be able to give you the support that you need.
Right. I'm reading the summary right now for type 9s.
Oh, geez.
And their core fear is the fear of being in conflict, loveless, separate, uncomfortable, unimportant, overlooked, shut out, or in an inharmonious or discordant relationship.
That is
It's
very accurate for
It's
you.
like all these like personality tests, right?
Yep.
Like will point to other aspects of it. So like for me, harmony is such a big part of being a type 9. Also, they say like 9s are kind, patient, steady, S-type, flexible, accepting, relaxed, unself-conscious, agreeable, content, comforting, and idealizing. And so it's like all these, like, you can take a personality test and know something about yourself, and each like different aspect, different personality test will point at different things because they're emphasizing different things. And so throughout the years, I've taken like Myers-Briggs, or I've taken like Ocean. It was one like my dad sent me because he has gone on to this really awesome journey of like really discovering how God created him recently. And now I can see that change because he's realizing this is the way I look at things, and like that is not always the right way of looking at things.
So we encourage you, as you're taking a listen to this, of maybe what could be a next best step would be, maybe I need to take one of these, and knowing that it's not going to be always 100% accurate. So don't feel like you need to be in this box, or just, I'm doing this because I'm a type 2 and therefore just deal with it. Like this is not a weapon to be used against people.
You should never use your Enneagram number as a shield or as a sword. You're like, oh, you're just such a type 4. That's why you're so irrational and so emotional. Like, no, that is not treating them as a human being of someone who's created in God's image. And then also, like, we should never say, well, I'm just the type 5, and so I overthink things, and I like to make sure I'm analytical about it and get all the options. And like, no, like, make a decision.
Recognize it and then use it to move forward.
Right.
So as we go into rapid fire, go ahead. If this conversation encouraged you, just let us know. We'd love to be able to support you, encourage you. There was a time and place where John and I were going to be Enneagram coaches. So we love being able to talk about all things about this.
We do know a lot.
We definitely know more than the average Joe.
Yeah. So we can help guide you towards who God created you to be. And that's what Carrie and I love doing. It is
so true.
Helping people grow personally and grow in their relationships, and help them become intentional with everything and everyone.
Boom. John has like the biggest smile on his face because he knows he totally just pulled that off. And that was totally on the fly. Okay, as we go into rapid fire, I'm going to ask you about fall.
Fall.
Yes. What is your favorite fall activity?
Fall activity. I really enjoy going to the Little Farmer.
Oh, that's my favorite.
I'm looking towards the Oktoberfest though as well. Okay.
Yes.
To be with people that I haven't seen in a while.
Right. Our friends host an annual Oktoberfest. So we're excited to be there.
Booyah, because it's delicious booyah.
I'm excited for the Little Farmer as well. This is a pumpkin patch apple place near us. It's free admission, which we love, and they have the best caramel apples and all the toppings. And we've gone every single year, and just being able to look back on photos to see how the kids have grown every year, I want to eat it all up. I love it so much. Okay, candy corn, yes or no? I know yours is a no. It's
pure sugar, and it tastes like wax.
I
love
it.
The texture of it is like eating a crayon.
It's like eating a giant sprinkle.
It's a crayon.
It's so good. It is so good. I will only have them every once in a while.
Is it crayon? Crayon?
Crayon.
Because we're Midwestern.
I
think it's crayon some other places.
Oh, jeez. Okay. What has...
Bubbler or water fountain?
Bubbler. Also the drink of a bubbler. Okay, last question. What is your favorite Halloween movie?
I don't really have a favorite Halloween movie, mostly because I never got to watch them growing up.
I know. So one that we'll probably watch with the kids is The Great Big Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. That one's pretty good that we can watch. My other ones, I was a Disney Channel kid. Disney Channel, that makes sense.
All the
Disney original
Channel
movies.
Yeah.
So all the Halloween Town movies, the OG Hocus Pocus I will watch. I'm not so sure about this new Hocus Pocus though. That one looks a little dark for me. I'm not sure if I'll be game for that, but
we'll have to watch it by ourselves before.
Oh, I'm definitely not watching that one with the kids. I won't even watch Halloween Town with the kids. I'm protecting them just a smidge. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of Couples Becoming Intentional. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Couples Becoming Intentional. As always, if you have a question that you would like us to answer here on the podcast, you can go ahead and send us an email at jcvhouse@gmail.com, or you can send me a DM over on Instagram at Carrie Vaco. We'd love to be able to answer and feature you on here on the podcast. And as always, if there is somebody in your life who would benefit from this episode, feel free to go ahead and send them the link. And if you love this content, we'd love to be able to hear from you. So go ahead and leave us a review over on Apple Podcasts.
Until next time, we love you and we appreciate you.
See you guys.
Bye.